All right, good morning, everyone. So, welcome to OSS training session, and we expect you to participate. Can you hear me?
Yes, indeed.
All right, so we expect everyone to participate in this session and care deeply about what the organizers are imparting, are telling us, giving us information, and we observe mutual respect for everyone. And you can challenge directly the organizers, or any questions that you want to ask to our clarifications. Don't hesitate to challenge directly, and we expect you to be focused on this session, be solution focused, and aside from that, um, this summit allows you to be open. So sessions will be recorded and sometimes live streamed as well. But then if you don't want to be seen in the video, or because this video will be later shared in social media like YouTube, Twitter, and LinkedIn, if you don't want to be identified, please take personal precautions like not activating your video and using NA as your name during the session. So you can click on the rename.
Well, or a number.
Yeah.
No, instead of the name.
Yeah, you can change. You can rename it. You can click on the rename button and you can change your name so that you will not be identified as you are. And so everything created at the summit is released under a CC, or open source license. And so we are here to collaborate on topics we have chosen as a community. No one should be discriminated or harassed based on their race, gender, age, religion, appearance, or being inexperienced or anything else. So we are all expected to preserve a certain level of professionalism and respect. So if you feel that you're abused or someone is having an abusive behavior, then you can report to the summit. So you can report it to me or to any organizers so that it can be handled and prevented from future occurrence. And as I shared in the chat, you can see here hashtag OSS 2020, and I've sent you the Slack invite in the chat also. And so here we are, let's start. Welcome to this session. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen.
Thank you.
So I'm taking it, 1 second. Hopefully it catches the right screen. Cool, great. Okay, awesome. Thank you, Alona, for the introduction. And I think we'll begin with the session itself. And we'll be speaking about supply chain attacks, the rise of the third-party poopers, as Alona had mentioned. I'll do a quick introduction, but I'll also do a little housekeeping thing. Feel free to make it as interactive as possible. Okay, we're Israeli in origin, and we are regular to people interrupting us during our speech. So don't be afraid of that, and feel free also to challenge us in the context of what do we know and what we've actually have in our experience to share about third-party security in general. So I'll do a short introduction. Again, we'll have 2 phases of this talk. The initial one would be starting to talk about enterprise risk and what are the things that we need to take into account as a company when we're trying to protect ourselves. And then we'll kind of expand that to the whole context of your supply chain, your third parties that you're working with, and how it actually imposes more risk when you understand that your perimeter is kind of expanded outside of your data center and outside of your internal network. So we'll do a short round in introductions of introducing myself and Elad, and then I think we'll dive to the whole context of the flow itself. Okay, so hi, this is me, Demi Ben-Ari. I'm one of the co-founders and the CTO of Adversaries. Coming from the background of engineering, I was in the Israeli Air Force for bit more than 8 years. There I actually developed an missile defense system. It was more of an on-prem solution that didn't expand out of the internal data center, distributed systems, etc., near real time. Also, I was a team leader, a senior engineer there. When I left the military, I started working at a company called Windward. There I actually handled maritime analytics. Basically what I did with missiles in the Israeli Air Force, I did with ships when I left the military. And they started handling the world of security, cloud, infrastructure, distributed infrastructure, and big data technologies. I'm also leading several developer communities focused in big data, data science, DevOps, cloud, all sorts of things. And I like talking to people. So if you talk with me from the other end, I would really enjoy that also. Let also Elad introduce himself.
So hi, I'm Elad Shapira. I'm the head of research at Reyes. I love reverse engineering, low level. I'm more offensive type of guy, but I work now in a company that you help to protect. And we'll have a good fun today.
Yes, indeed. I promise you that. Okay. So some important things. We spoke about the agenda and what will be the flow of the talk itself. I must say on myself, what I'm not a security expert. So what you won't be after this kind of talk are security experts also. But what you will be after this is happier people because I've stopped talking. You'll know at least like how to search things about different aspects of enterprise security, your own third-party risk management program, etc., and all the risks that might yield out of handling a relationship with lots of third parties. And of course, you will know the answer to the meaning of life. Okay, so let's start. What is cyber? Or cybersecurity in particular. We always like to take these kind of examples of major failures of the context of cybersecurity, and mostly it's because of lots of reasons while you're engaging, or at least like wanting to start a program, an ISMS program, Information Security Management System. And when you're trying to put different kinds of security controls, you need to kind of understand what are you trying to protect in the beginning, because cyber is a broad and like really large term when you're kind of like defining your digital presence today, because we're exposed to different kinds of threat and vulnerabilities once we actually have some kind of digital footprint, right? So here we can see lots of failures of physical security, but in general, when you're handling the security of a company, or at least like even your own security, you have a lot of the aspects and a lot of controls that you can protect your digital presence with physical stupid controls, right? Like putting a guard, or at least like doing some kind of access management system. And we'll talk that broadly also in the next few slides. Okay, so let's define a bit better the context of what is security. What is cybersecurity? Security is involved with technology because we're talking about digital presence, right? But not only, because technology is something that exists, but a lot of times to kind of mitigate some things and at least to try to protect yourself better, you need to take action, okay? And even if something happened, some incident actually occurred, you also need to put some action. And security, it's not a one-off. I always say that. It's an ongoing process that continues on and on and on, because everything is overchanging always, okay? New pieces of infrastructure are like put in place. New employees are introduced to the company. Employees leave. And all of these occurrences and all of these like events actually need process around it, okay? What happens, for example, if you have an employee that is leaving the company and you need to revoke its access, okay? It's access to what? Okay, you have a lot of aspects that you need to take into account. So for that, you have different kinds of risk assessment methods that kind of can test the validity, or at least like the strength of your security program. And you have different mechanisms that can do that. You can also explore the links afterwards, and I won't go into depth because we're going to talk about it. So always you have the consideration of taking security, or at least like wanting to create some kind of landscape around security. But it takes an effort, right? It's not free. It's not free main labor wise. It's not free like expense wise if you're looking at money. So you always have the tension between different resources and the amount of security that you can actually reach, okay? Because let's say if I spend endless amounts of money, I don't have any limitation to that, I might achieve the best security possible, but this is never the case, okay? And sometimes even you as security practitioners, compliance people, do not have the actual ability of like allocating unlimited amount of resources. So you have a budget, of course, right? And then you need to take some kind of risk-based approach of creating with the available budget, and even like maybe creating your own budget, because I've heard different kinds of implementations of people like justifying their job and saying, I will create a new line of business in security if you give me like two more people budget-wise, which is an interesting approach. But eventually you will end up with a certain like level of security. Elad has its own saying, like always. Elad, I'll give you the stage also like in this context.
I would like also to say about it that 99.9% secure is 100% vulnerable. So there's always the tiny little glitch that you forget to take care or do not put a mitigation.
Exactly. So eventually you need to take some kind of risk-based approach to basically pinpoint what you want to cover and what are you trying to protect also. So let's do an experiment, okay? Because even if, in the example of like being a new CISO or a security practitioner that comes to a company, and right now you're given the responsibility of securing the company. Makes sense, right? So again, let's do maybe even the asset classification experiment, because the first question that you should ask to all of the business like stakeholders in the context of managing the security of the company is, what do you want me to protect? Okay, what kind of asset? So for that, we need to do some kind of classification method to understand at least what is vulnerable, what is important to the company. So I would do that maybe with Elad, okay? What is the most confidential data that we're holding? Can you like classify that in the company even?
So think customer data, probably.
Okay,
But it
only
depends.
that?
No.
What about like financial information? The amount of money you're spending on things or amount of money that you have in the bank? Is this confidential?
It depends where do you locate it. For example, if you have regulations that you need to there, or
Okay.
it's a
Okay.
lot of
What about employee data?
Also, you don't want to neglect anything, but you need to know where to focus on, where to put your efforts.
Okay, so somebody needs to actually like define that, what's confidential, what's important to the company. But if we go forward, can you afford losing these things? Like for example, if the photos from the pool party that we've had 2 years ago get leaked, is this something that you can afford losing? Maybe in your case, no. But
No.
but in general, it might be something that you don't really care about. But for example, if somebody encrypts your database and takes all of their data, this is something that it will be like painful to lose, right? Okay, so going to the next question, is it irreplaceable? Because for example, if you have backups, your only exposure right now is to the leakage, but you can get back to your SLA and have some kind of like business continuity program. So maybe it's not irreplaceable. And again, what could actually cause damage? For example, leakage of confidential documents or leakage of all of your customer pipeline that you'd like to actually have also. And of course, reputational damage. Okay, what actually might impact your reputation as a company? You have lots of like even like defacement things, which kind of like seem ridiculous, but again, it might do a lot of harm if they have some kind of drive-by download there. Right, Elad?
Yeah.
Okay, so going forward, we've done the experiment of trying to classify all of the most important things, but what are these things? Okay, so we spoke about different kinds of examples. For example, let's take photos, credit card details, if you're processing credit card information, God forbid. Okay, bank account details. Our CFO probably has all of the bank account details of all of the suppliers that we're paying, but also some of the customers, correct? PII, which is an important thing when you're looking on data privacy today. Everybody are super sensitive of exposing different kinds of PII pieces. So this is also something that might be important. What about account information? Elad, you have your Twitter account, right?
Yeah.
What happens if somebody actually hacks your Twitter account?
You probably will post many tweets,
Many tweets, or maybe he can even like lure things of pressing about malicious links, right?
yeah,
It's
but
not only posts. So you have lots of different kind of attack vectors. What happens if somebody does account takeover on you? Of course, primary emails. I'm guessing, okay, again, if I do a poll right now during the session, how many email accounts do you have, Elad?
wow, a lot.
Wow, a lot. Okay, so
Not,
in general,
I wish I would have.
so in general,
Oh
usually
my.
people have at least three, I would say, at least minimum. Okay,
Yes.
you have your regular one, you have your work one probably, and you have some kind of like nonsense account that you basically register to all sorts of things that might do advertising on you. So okay, three. But I know a lot, trust me, he's paranoid and he's trying to classify all of the other things and do separation of concerns. So he probably has 30. Okay, I'm just guessing. And I'm not talking about the one-time emails, okay? So in general, you might have a lot of like footprint on the context of email addresses, okay, or aliases, secret files, password information, financial records, different kinds of Bitcoin wallets, and like Elad had mentioned, user data, customer data. These are all different types of assets, okay, data assets that I might want to protect and understand at least where they're resided at. Okay, so let's talk a bit about attacker passwords. Okay, I know that Elad can elaborate more in this context, but I will like go briefly over those. So you have different kinds of viruses that attack our network. Somebody had written some kind of malicious content, malicious, I would say, entity that he infiltrates in our own perimeter, or maybe even on different areas of the enterprise landscape. And right now they do some kind of exploitation of different kinds of things. So these viruses can actually like transmit information also from the internal perimeter to the outer world. But as I would define like in the beginning, what's our perimeter right now? Is it still in our own data center? I would argue with that no, okay? Different kinds of remote access tools, firmware rootkits, okay? Sometimes even like literal equipment that we buy comes with hidden backdoors built in. OS rootkits, bots, different kinds of Trojans, keyloggers that might actually be in the network, different kinds of worms, ransomware, malware, drive-by attacks, all sorts of things that we kind of understand that this is the threat landscape that actually is out there in the world. But not only that, the most efficient manners, I think, in the context of different kinds of attacks, which probably exploit the weakest link in the chain, which are the human factor, are phishing. But you have different like types of phishing also. Phishing, like video phishing, okay, or smishing, which is like SMS phishing. All sorts of communication methods today that you might get a link. Basically, by pressing that, you will be exposed to different things.
I get a
But
lot recently from PayPal.
from PayPal, yeah.
A lot.
Don't you get that from your, I think, long living relative that passed away and really wants to pass you his like 3 million euros and maybe like,
I'm not
haven't you
that
clicked
lucky,
that?
only PayPal.
Okay, I see. So I'm the innocent one. So once we actually defined all sorts of attacks, who's trying to attack that? Okay, who's trying to exploit that? So we'll try to kind of like classify at least the adversaries that we're coming against. And when we're talking about adversaries, somebody is approaching us. But who is this somebody? Okay, and then we kind of go to different kinds of terminology when we want to define privacy, anonymity, and pseudo-anonymity. What is privacy? Privacy is basically somebody else or any other external entity not knowing what we do. Okay, so if you give the context, it's basically the context of SSL or like encryption in transit, or even behavior, how you're hiding your behavior. But let's go to anonymity. It's who is doing the actions. If I can't actually like identify Elad trying to be malicious to somebody else, I might not even know like where to go when I want to maybe do some kind of exploration on. Okay, so you have privacy of knowing who, what are you doing, and anonymity, not knowing who is doing. But what is pseudo anonymity? Okay, Pseudo-anonymity might be something that I actually identified a specific behavior, but I can't know who is doing that actually. I know that a specific entity is doing some kind of action, but I don't know exactly who is doing that. And maybe pseudo-anonymity can yield like really fast if you correlate lots of information, who is the person or who is the entity that is actually like trying to do that. How? Cross-correlation attacks. Once I understand different kinds of behaviors that an entity is doing in different locations, I might add more metadata on that one to try to classify maybe the location that is coming from, or also try to identify the specific person because I can correlate that to an identity. Okay, so why did I speak about that? Because we have different methods today of creating authentication, and afterwards, of course, creating authorization to different kinds of aspects. So authenticating, as you know, is basically trying to understand if Demi is Demi, okay? And how I actually like correlate that information and all sorts of things in the context of secure login and maybe identifying an entity. This will be the authenticating that I am me. But what happens when I need to take a risk-based approach and I need to give Demi the specific permissions to do different kinds of things in my internal network or even on the platform? So this is the authorization part. What I'm authorized to do, and if I need to take my identity, correlate that with a subset of abilities that I'm able to do also in the organization and pass it on to all of the other entities. For example, if I was authenticated to my computer, I got some sort of permissions, okay? I got a role. And right now, when I'm passing this role to a different entity in the organization, for example, to Elad, I want him to bring the bank records of the company, but I'm not allowed to, right? But if I'm passing that to Elad without my authorization methods, he probably can assume that I'm okay to actually access that information. So the context of authorization is also important. I see cyber risk anywhere, basically, okay? So generally, let's define the landscape. Let's define, at least we spoke about the assets. Okay, so right now, I want to understand what I'm trying to actually protect. Okay, so in general, we spoke about different types of data assets, but sometimes even I want to protect the identities, right? We spoke about the authentication part of it. We want to create some kind of protection over files, okay? Content, different kinds of privacy aspects. So we have lots of things that we want to protect in the company. And of course, these things are the assets of the company. This is the important thing to mention, that basically this is the perimeter that we're trying to protect right now. And we'll talk about that, I think, on the other part of the talk, what defines the perimeter, because these things a lot of times won't be even on our own data center. So the other layers of protection that I'm speaking about right now, maybe we need to put these kind of like security controls also on the different areas that I will describe in the next parts of the talk. So right now we've defined the perimeter, right? Okay, cool. This thing means that we need actual like security controls to put in place to protect that. So in general, the security controls that we can put on the lightweight of the perimeter can be encryption, multi-factor authentication, different kinds of patching cadence on the infrastructure itself, firewalls, web application firewalls, encryption in transit and in rest, HTTPS, SSH to different like servers, VPN connections, okay? Different kinds of hidden services like Tor. We have lots of sort of like security controls that even as engineers and security practitioners, we can actually put in place to protect ourselves, to protect our data assets. But okay, a lot of methods, a lot of like security tools that I might like introduce you guys in which you will pay a lot of money on. But the thing is that I need to understand what I'm trying to protect these things from. Okay, the what. So we spoke about phishing, adware, malware, different kinds of mass surveillance things, adware, okay, different kinds of exploit kits that are published to the world, etc. So in general, these are the threats that we're trying to protect and protect against from. And these are the security controls that we're trying to put in place to actually protect them from. But who are we trying to protect from? Okay, and this is the actual adversaries part of it. Spies, all of the like sexy things that you see in movies, hackers, nation states, etc. But it can be even much, much, much stupider. Okay, ex-partner, colleagues, different kinds of disgruntled employees that actually can expose us to a really large risk. And this is the landscape that we're talking about when we're trying to protect something in cybersecurity. And of course, we're talking about risk, right? So you have, it's actually like multiplies. We have all of the vulnerabilities, okay? Multiplied with the amount of threats that we have, multiplied with the consequences, because again, maybe something that is really hackable easily, okay, and might expose all of the information, but the information is super not relevant and not important at all, the consequences won't be that fast. Okay, so you need to take that in account when you're talking about risk and you're trying to factor in lots of features. Cool. So defense, let's speak about defense. Let's take an example, the NIST framework. Okay, it can be NIST 853 Rev 4, or it can be even NIST CSF, which is like more human readable, I would say. So we have different kinds of threats that come to our own internal thing. And basically, you have all of the flow that continues on with the whole like landscape, okay? Prevent, detect, and then afterwards, if you've detected that something is malfunctioned, maybe you want to go back and actually recover from that. So all of these aspects are covered with different kinds of frameworks and different kinds of security controls that are put in place. Okay? So in general, we see a flow. This is something that actually penetrates the perimeter. And then we need to understand the landscape of what is happening right now in my infrastructure. So Elad, do you know all of these tools?
Probably some of them.
Okay, so in general, what are you trying to like identify when we're trying to like prevent, okay, about the known threats? Can you like mention some of these lists?
Yeah, for example, we can see like there are insider threats where we have some employee within the company that try to hack. We saw a few examples of that. We have lateral movement when the company already been breached and attackers try to move inside the organization. We have like external facing threats or
Yes.
leaked info on the net.
Yes. So in general, you might want to actually like defend also from the unknown threats, some things that you can't take an example, okay? So in general, you might want to also like defend from these things in advance and maybe respond and recover, okay? And in general, these are, I won't go into depth in all of them, but in general, you might want to like take that in advance. 1 second. So in general, you would like to actually respond and recover if something was actually corrupted, okay? And different kinds of tools that you might put in place. These are the things that you might want to protect and to enhance your own like cybersecurity posture. So again, because it's a cyber talk, let's say 3 times cyber, 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 and whisper that. And I would ask you, Elad, what are the top 3 things that come in mind when you want to like put some kind of control in place to enhance your external exposure, to stay safe online?
Wow, so many. I would like to patch my servers or my technologies and keep them up to date. So to avoid the common vulnerabilities. Employee awareness, I will try to put efforts on educating my employees and the partners that I work with. I will try to implement multi-factor authentication. There's so many things that we need to do, and I also need to do. Everybody needs to do.
Yes. So in general, 1 second. I'm really, really sorry about that.
By the way, the attendees can write their input in the chat if
Okay.
you would like.
So in general, you might want to at least emphasize all of the things that you mentioned, because right now we would all, like the security practitioners, be out of a job if patching was a solved problem, okay? Because like updating systems is one of the hardest things, and once you actually do that, you are able to like do something in the context of protecting yourself better. only 1 second. I really, really apologize.
Especially when we want to avoid a restart not in a convenient time. It happens a few times, but right now the laptop and the software is all fully patched, so no worries regarding vStock.
I'm really sorry. I'm on duty. And the thing is that basically my 8-month-old is in kindergarten, and if something happens, I need to answer. Okay, so in general, use two-factor authentication. It's really, really important to protect your identity because we spoke that this is the data asset, and this is really, really important. And of course, to protect the login, it's use password managers, okay? Because leaking your passwords can be one of the largest vulnerabilities that are out there. Okay, cool. So once we've identified all of the most important things of like what is to protect yourself, let's do some threat modeling and what actually like that means, okay? Right now, we have different kinds of frameworks that we might want to put in place, okay? So we need to put some kind of structure to it. We need to put a program. I'm not even saying like, what's the correct program because there is no correct one. I might say there is a right one for every use case. And because of that, we've kind of identified in the beginning, what are we trying to protect, how we're going to protect that, like with what kind of tools in place. And we need to put some kind of like structure around it. So structured security-based analysis is important. And trying to understand, to identify with all of the stakeholders in your organization, what are the things that we've kind of like take as a ground basis of what we're trying to protect, and what type of things that we might even like accept the risk on. There are different types of frameworks that I can actually identify and understand the threats. Again, I mentioned NIST, and there are all sorts of like cybersecurity frameworks. And we need to review everything on the design elements. And again, because these are components, Elad talked about the customer data. Customer data actually resides on our platform. But not only, maybe I'm holding that on the corporate information system also, like in general in the storage systems, etc. And maybe even something is an important data asset on the context of sales. This is something that is mostly important also. So we need to identify that. And when we're designing the security structure of a company, we need to identify these elements and protect them against some things. And of course, like we spoke about in the context of resources, you need to prioritize the mitigation actions, okay, by risk. What's the most riskiest one? Probably we'll address first. And again, it really depends if I need to invest a lot of funds on it or not. Okay, so what are the core questions that I might want to actually like ask when I'm going to implement some kind of solution to solve a security problem, or at least like an unknown security problem that I'm trying to like defend myself against? So in general, always let's start speaking about what are we trying to build? What kind of ability we're trying to introduce right now to our company and our flow? Okay, so once I identify that, it doesn't have to be a piece of software. It can be even an integration that I'm doing to a different platform. Once I've identified that, I can try to at least understand what can actually go wrong. Because, you know, Murphy's Law, what can go wrong will go wrong. So basically, by understanding that, we will be able to build the most effective, I would say, security measurements around our solution. And again, what are we going to do about that? Because we've identified all of the things that might go wrong, right? Cool. But maybe we actually accept the risk and say we don't want to invest $3 million right now on that and create some kind of like protection against that. Maybe I will buy insurance. I'm not saying that it's always the right solution, but a lot of times it might be good. Okay. And basically we need to evaluate that afterwards. So once we've maybe identified that, created the corrective measurements, and even started to do something, we need an ability to actually measure that. Did we do a good job of actually protecting that? Okay, and this is, of course, ongoing over time. So third party who? Because like, again, the title of the talk was about like supply chain and third parties. Because right now, we've kind of identified our own perimeter. But what happens when basically there is no perimeter, okay? Because think of it that today we're passing away our information to lots of third-party members, okay? And in general, when we're like passing the information, if it's a business partner, a supplier, hosting provider, or anything else, Even a breach with one of the smallest suppliers can actually cause really large harm on our end because maybe they're holding the list of all of our employees, okay, or a list of all of our customers. And then when it's exposed, there is a really large business risk on us, okay? So let's take an example, P&I Media, okay? P&I Media was a small like terminal company that was breached, and literally the breach of that company specifically caused a really large halt with all of the largest retailers in the world. They literally stopped and decommissioned all of their business because they weren't able to kind of like start working with their terminals. And think of it that when these companies are not working, the register is not counting and there is no money coming in. And it's a really large problem. Okay, so why do you need to manage the cybersecurity risk of your third parties? Because in general, in the past 20 years, a lot of shift had been made to the industry, okay? And the average organization like increased its usage of cloud service provider. Amount of sensitive data that is shared outside of the current like enterprise perimeter like raised by at least like 50%. And again, a lot of shadow IT. Elad said, basically you need to identify all of the entities that you're working with, etc. What happens if you don't know who you're working with? A lot of freemium methods that the employees install in the endpoints, etc. And you don't even know how to like follow the trail. It's important. COVID time, okay? Everybody started working from home. And it's a really large risk because right now enterprises actually like shifted the way that they're working also. And if you had lots of security controls when you're protected in your own data center or in your own internal network, you don't have that when you're working from home. Okay, a lot of road warrior architectures being designed. And when you're connecting through a VPN, maybe it's secure, maybe it's not. And because it's much easier to go to your supply chain and basically steal your data from there, or like even take an example of the Target breach that their AC company got breached and they had credentials to the corporate side of Target and all of their employee data was stolen. And of course, one of the most painful things today, data regulations and different kinds of like regulations across financial industry or healthcare industry, etc., which all adhere to you need to manage the third-party risk that is imposed by your supply chain, by your business partners, by whoever is holding your data. And it might be even the most minimal part of data piece that is really, really important. Okay. It's not only your IT vendors, because right now we spoke about all of the interconnected applications, etc. But it's not only that. You have different kinds of financial platforms that you might be using, payroll services, law firms, accounting companies, etc., which all understandably hold sensitive information of your company. And this is really, really important also. So how do you get in? Like every company, okay, your third party is a company and it has some kind of external attack surface. It has the application layer, or all it is out facing to the world, and basically exposed like web servers, mail servers, all sorts of mobile applications even. You have the internal IT and network layer, which means IP addresses, domains, subdomains, different kinds of asset reputation methods, etc. And of course, what I like to call the stupid factor of the organization, the humans, the employees. Employees of the company that might be exposed to phishing attacks and different sorts of things. So again, we had challenges for working from home also. And this mainly means when we shifted to working from home, we kind of understood that this introduces a problem of even like business continuity. Can you provide the same SLA that you promised to your customers, or even like, can you understand if the supplier or the third party can provide the SLA that he promised to you? With the whole shift of working from home. So we've actually identified and kind of classified the use case with a platform that we're using to do third-party risk management, and adjusted some kind of workflow of understanding the maturity of other entities working from home. You can address the link afterwards. So to sum it all up, okay, threat modeling is great, but it's not enough. You need to understand at least like what are you doing, what kind of mitigation actions you're putting in place, etc. Developers should do threat modeling, and not only the security people. And when I say developers, it's any entity basically in the company. It can be even the marketing team or other aspects of the sales team that want to integrate a lot of systems. And of course, it's plug and play. They showed me in the demo that I just connect my Salesforce with my platform and pass over all the information, yada, yada, yada. Amazing. But again, you've introduced a new flow in your platform right now that kind of exposes all of your internal information. Is this okay? Is this being done securely? Good question. And prioritize your data and business value and understand what are you trying to protect, most important thing, and what kind of assets you're trying to protect also. And of course, make it quick, make it lightweight, and make it agile, or like at least try to make it as agile as possible. Because right now, if you're trying to do the most robust thing and trying to like implement the best solution for something, probably it will take years. And during this whole like phases that you're introducing the new process and new product, you might be exposed to a lot of like external threats. Security is a process. It's not a one-off, okay? So if you try to do a pen testing and say, okay, we've done the pen testing, we've improved all of the things and actually fixed and remediated all of the other things, I'm good, it's a big no-no, okay? Because right now think that somebody had changed your infrastructure, somebody ramped, what?
It's a snapshot.
Yes, it's a snapshot. It's again, it's a one-off at a single point in time, and that's it. And something had changed. Somebody opened up a new port, somebody ramped up a new website, etc. Your whole attack surface has changed. Okay, not whole, but a large portion of your attack surface has changed. And of course, always challenge yourself and your software that you're creating, because usually we're living in a digital world. And if you don't do some kind of like continuous monitoring solution that you identify the risk and at least like try to mitigate that on an ongoing basis, you will expose yourself continuously. Elad, I think you should share the screen right now and take control, because this is your part. And I'm doing good clicks, but I think you'll do it better.
Can you see my screen?
See.
Okay. Hello, my name is Elad Shapira, and it's a great pleasure to be here today with all of you. Thanks everyone for joining. I hope you will benefit from this one. I would like also to thank the organizers for inviting us to talk here, Dennis and Alona and Didar and all the other gang members. So I'm here to talk about supply chain attacks. So whatever you do or whatever organization you're part of, you really can't defend your company or your customers as well if you are not thinking holistically about supply chain attacks. So what is Reyes? We grew a little bit since that picture was taken. You're not able to see, but we also have a new cool offices. And just a second. Okay, that's me. I'm holding the Reyes logo at the back. Please remember that the camera usually adds 5 kilo or more, or even more.
And Elad had 3 cameras on him right
yes.
now.
A few cameras on me. So I had the research at Reyes. That means that I see and I saw a lot of vendors throughout the years, and I still do. So in parallel, I also teach at Afeka Tel Aviv Academic College of Engineering. I teach ethical hacking courses, web technologies, mobile security courses. And before joining Reyes, I used to lead the mobile research at AVG Technologies, and used to work for KPMG as a consultant and pen tester. And I participate a lot in a Capture the Flags competition. Recently, I participated in the Hacking a Satellite CTF organized by DEFCON, the US Air Force, and also in the recent JAWS versus PROS CTF, which is like a attack defense CTF. It's a very cool one. I also organize hacking competition. One of the competitions that I helped to organize is Core Wars 8086, which is like assembly programs that fight each other on a digital arena. It's like a survival competition, digital survival competition. And I love
by 15-year-old.
What?
By 15 years old people.
No, not just. But we try to, it's like the Israeli idol of the geeks. This is how we recruit later people. And we took a few people, young teens to work at Reyes as an internship from which is really great. And I love reverse engineering, low-level hardware hacking, always kind of things. So what we're going to talk about, so here's the agenda of my part at least. So we're talking about supply chain attacks and third-party vendors. So supply chain attacks are becoming increasingly widespread as the cyber criminals are seek to access sensitive data and usually target the companies not as the main target, but because they are too strong, they have the right mitigation base, but they look to hack into these companies from the supplier side. So for the less secure, the weak spots that surrounding this organization. So in such attacks, the victim is not the ultimate target of the attack, but the surrounding the companies or suppliers. It's like a stepping stone into the company that we would like to target eventually. So in this talk, I will present an overview of supply chain attacks, and we delve into various patterns, use cases, lesson learned, and of course, challenges and mitigation. So feel free to jump, whatever you have something on your mind, a question or remark. As I mentioned in the beginning of the talk, I'm a TCP guy, not in UDP. I like to get acknowledged and will be happy to sing with you. So this is what usually comes to mind when we're talking about traditional supply chain attacks. So we usually think of cost, quality, inventory, just in time, natural disasters, but like 120 years later, this is what we face. So we have organizations spread all around us, for example, law firms, data management companies, email providers, web hosting companies, we have subsidiaries or subcontractors. So the take-home message here is that the third-party security risk is not limited to these companies. Any external or software hardware that you use for your business also might possess a risk to you. So even JavaScript that you put on a website for marketing purposes, can, for analytics, for example, may cause a breach. Or you can be expose your information to people that visit in the website to others. So privacy concerns might be also raised here. So the important thing to note here is that all of these are part of our perimeter. So if bad things happen to one of them, let's say they got breached, so it affects directly on us. So there are a few states that each organization can be part of. So we can be once a supplier or an evaluator, or usually both. Evaluator is like a company that have its own suppliers. So if we take Openness as an example, we have customers. So Openness acts as a third-party supplier, but we also manage our own supplier.
Elad, you're not sharing the screen anymore. I don't know why.
Do you see the screen?
No.
Why?
I see the screen.
Okay, maybe I am failing. Thank you for noticing.
Did you click the
I can see also the screen.
Okay, it's my failure. It's my failure. I'm sorry.
Did you click
thank you.
Thank you for the support. So we can be both, or we can be also the supplier or a supplier and evaluator. It's a mix. And every company, almost every company, have this kind of positions. So if I look at it, it's like a skydivers that connect to each other and replace places. And each time, other group of people are connected to others. So it's like in suppliers. Sometimes this supplier is connected to that company, and then there's a new connection made between these companies. So everyone is connected to everyone. This is what we need to remember. It's like the butterfly effect. So if something bad happens on one side, it might affect the other side as well. And we might be on that other side. So there are enormous list of cases of breaches of third parties related to supply chains attacks published on the wide. Here are a few examples of these cases. It's like every week or month you see like a headline of a notable case that's being published. For example, we saw like recently in the end of May, a problem in GitHub, like where GitHub revealed that tens of open source NetBeans projects hosted on its platform were targeted by a piece of malware. So as part of what appears to be a supply chain attack. And in the beginning of June, there was an interesting phishing attempt of hackers that targeted high-ranking employees in a German corporation, like a multinational corporation, that's related to the corona pandemic effort. So if we monitor the news and the headlines, we can spot like every once in a while these cases. So if someone planned to go to Vegas this year, for example, for Black Hat or DEF CON, I think that's the nearest that you can probably get today. So some of these conferences were postponed and some others went virtual. So let's brainstorm. Take a moment for yourself and try to think. What are the critical suppliers of a casino hotel at Vegas? Okay, so if we take a casino or hotel at Vegas, think and try to come with who are the critical suppliers of that casino. For example, if we take Bellagio, which is, by the way, a great hotel, what are the critical suppliers of Bellagio going to be? Do you have any ideas? This is the social engineering part of the presentation. We are collecting info about the casino in Vegas. So feel free to participate or write your ideas in the chat. Demi can.
Yeah, I'll read it out.
So
I suppose.
Yeah.
I suppose it's going to be. I mean, they're going to have stuff maybe from a supplier like Cisco or things for a kitchen.
Okay.
You're going to have things for like what was mentioned, the toilet paper.
Yeah.
So depending on where they're deciding to get theirs from. But are you hoping for like a list of them or just kind of like
just brainstorm. But if you mention toilet paper, there used to be a vulnerability in Satis toilet that hackers used to hack this very expensive toilet which has support of Bluetooth. So if you went to your room, hackers were able to hack the toilet from the nearest room and activate the bidet or something like that. But this is another
That
story.
can be really unpleasant.
This is more like physical attacks. But so first you mentioned like the slot machine.
Wait, you had something to say.
Yeah.
No.
Sorry. I was just gonna. I was gonna say that when you mentioned Vegas and the supply chain there, I automatically thought about OSINT I1. Have you heard of that?
I haven't. OSIN?
OSINT?
Ocean 11.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
Amazing.
No, okay, no. I was mistaken. Yeah, try to explain.
OSINT I1. It's like a open source intelligence exercise of Las Vegas, literally of the streets of Las Vegas.
Across the city.
I've never been to Vegas, so
yeah, of Las Vegas directly. So like you're going through and doing open source intelligence on specific places in Las Vegas. It's pretty
Nice.
wild, but
Yeah, and you get like a hammer, golden hammer in the end.
oh, I wish. I don't know.
Yeah. If you get chicken,
so I must say that Elad in one of the company events made us do something like that. He literally sent us to like shops to gather information, like as an employee like awareness method of social engineering. So we had to lure like salespeople and everything, like to give their most
information. So who did that?
Elad. He's doing all of the crazy things in the company.
If you want to come and work for Panorama, in the last stage, you need to get into the company without being noticed and sign a contract in the HR department. Really, and later we review the comms if you were like able to piggyback your way through.
So wait. So that's the HR process.
Sort of. Yeah, no, no.
My process.
Not
I'm,
always.
I'm sitting in there right now. That's why I'm asking. No, I'm just kidding.
You would be sitting near Elad. He's at the office right now.
I'm right behind you. No, I'm kidding.
Ah, you're the guy with the knife. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I understand.
No, that'd be awesome though. Wow.
No, he literally does
Individual
these things. I'm not kidding.
Activities
Hey.
all the time for
Hey, I would love to find, to find a position like that. That would be awesome.
It's all employees would need to do that, not just a specific position.
In fact, I mean,
We had some guys wearing like a police uniform, and someone brought a ladder and like hit the door since 7 a.m. on the outside of the company. So till someone comes, so he will be treated like a
Don't even start this conversation with him. Like, he can talk for hours about these things. I think we should continue with
on
the
the ceiling to get the pin code of the employees. But you can do just on that. So some can mention like the slot machines manufacturers or a company that gives security services to Vertel, or others can highlight the cleaning services or HR agencies. But who is this guy?
Sell.
There's the person on the right,
Sell.
the guy with the knife. Can you recognize the person? And if you're quick enough, you can social engineer me and do Google Images with that photo and get the answer quickly, if you're quick enough. So who is it?
I told you, it's Sal from Ocean's 11.
It's Ocean Levitt, that his name is Mr. Zerga.
Ah, you mean the character that he took?
Yeah,
Okay.
not that.
Okay.
So that's Mr. Zerga. So he's pretending to be someone. Who's he pretending to be in the movie?
I don't remember, you know?
He pretended to be like a very important person, like a high-profile gambler. So do Vegas casinos care about high-profile gamblers? The answer is hell yeah. Why? Because we spend a lot of money on gambling, and you know how it works. Like the house always wins. So, by the way, the same goes for CTF competition. Like in the latest Pros vs. Joe's CTF, the house always wins when it comes to the rating. Like they're always ahead of the blue teams. It's very frustrating. So the casinos give like a special treatment to those high-profile gamblers. For example, they send them wines and chocolates throughout the years and other goodies. Or if they're in town, they like taking them in limousines. So when we talk with such organization, like a few years ago, we asked the security team, like the question that we always ask a company we have interaction with. So we asked them, tell us what are your most critical suppliers are. So the answer was quite surprising. Can you guess what they responded?
Nay.
So I can share with you. So the guy from the security team told us, my most critical vendor for like a hotel casino is like the local flower shop. And we were surprised. Why the local flower shop? I never heard such an answer. Why do you care about it? So there is a local flower shop that sends chocolates and flowers all throughout the year to all these high-profile games, for example, during their birthday or their special events. So they hold like Excel list of with all the details, all the sensitive details on the addresses and phones and everything that's related to these high-profile gamers, and they keep it like in a secure computer. And this guy is worried. He actually tells he can literally not sleep during the night because he's worried how do they secure this list because it's worth a lot of money. So this is a usual, non-unusual answer what we get to get the local force security shop as the most critical suppliers of organization. It's like out of the box. And here's another riddle. Can you spot, there's a critical supplier in the picture. Can you spot what is the critical supplier hidden here in the picture? By the way, as you can see, I'm a freak of movies. I can share with you that probably my best movies is Princess Bride and Blues Brothers. But,
Frozen.
Frozen, Frozen. Of course,
Are
Frozen.
are you talking about water then? Is that what
I don't know, Elad, what are you talking about?
the critical supply?
Yeah, there's somewhere in that image a critical supplier. It's from
He said.
the movie Fish Named Wanda. So why, what is the critical supplier hidden somewhere in the picture? So if you can spot it, there's a fish tank thermometer. So if we are still in the
Where is
context
that?
of Vegas Hotel Casino, why do Vegas Casino Hotel need to care about fish tank thermometer? Any ideas?
I mean, IoT hacks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this is one of the reasons you need to worry about your fish tank thermometer. So some time ago, casino database was hacked throughout a smart fish tank thermometer. So do we need to have a risk management plan that will take into account all aquariums that are found in organization facilities? That is indeed an interesting question. Okay. And here's another one for you. Moving into a different one. So take a moment and think, why is the following building interesting? Try to figure out what is used for or which company it belongs to. I can give you a hint that it's not an American embassy, like somewhere around the world. This is now a OSINT exercise. Okay, so can you spot the like the Fazio name that's spread on the building? So this building belongs to Fazio Mechanical. So
That's the first thing that comes up when you search for Fazio and FMS.
so why does it ring a bell? This company?
I even don't know.
There's a hint.
Target?
Yeah.
Ah, this was okay. Makes sense. Now it makes sense.
Correct. That company is.
I mentioned it and I
related to
forgot
the
its name.
Target.
Yeah.
So Target was targeted by a refrigeration, heating, and air conditioning
The AC.
subcontractor. So the initial intrusion to the target system was tracked back to the network credentials that were stolen from a third-party vendor named Fazio. Okay, so it's a very like a famous third-party related breach.
By the way, the amount of compensation that Target is paying on that breach specifically, it's like astonishing. Like the amount of hundreds of millions of dollars, it's awful.
What can we do? What can we do?
Good question.
What is the bad guys' agenda? So there could be like two main vectors or agendas for these bad guys. So the ones that are hacking the third parties were surrounded. So one is to get from the supplier to all of its customers. So it's like the Rambo on the left side. I call it like spray and pray. And the other is dedicated and more targeted attacks, like the jackal on the right side. Like sometimes, you know, maybe the target is too hard to attack and the supply chain is weaker. So you want to target and these suppliers and get from them to your real target. So this is like more sniper-based attack. So this is like example for the spray and pray. It's like this case is associated with PN Media, like it's a Vancouver-based film, but meant just host like online photo services for numerous big names retailers. So, for example, including CVS, Walmart, and others. So the case of PNI Media is that you can see it affected multiple of its customers or partners. So someone hacked the PNI Media, and then all these companies were affected by this breach. And Demi, I know you served a little bit in the Israeli Air Force, so maybe you can share with us what do we see here and why it's an interesting for us to mention.
Yeah, it's the F-35. And it's duplicate, I would say Chinese one.
Yeah, it's a duplicate Chinese one. So this is more targeted one, like not the spam page, like more the snapper one. So this one is more targeted one because where the Chinese were able to steal the F-35 plans, Martin, and using the breach in one of RSA company products to get into Lockheed Martin.
I mean,
So
they don't have to invest as much in security or in making this stuff themselves if they can just steal it.
Yeah, it's much easier.
Right?
And you have a lot of subcontractors, by the way, specifically in the US, that have these things like plans, maybe even schedules of like when to create things. And because of that, there is I think it's called the CMMC, different kinds of regulations that are to different contractors of the US government that you need to adhere to specific like security specifications to at least start working with them. And it's a new act that they're trying to move forward.
So are you guys, is your company in the United States or are you in Israel?
Also, no, in Israel and the US, and we have customers globally. But in general, like we know different kinds of regulations, data regulations specifically, and security regulations from all around the world. It can begin from Japan up until the West Coast. In Africa, you have all sorts of things. And these regulations actually adhere to different kinds of frameworks that they want to put in place.
The R&D is mostly located in Israel because we would like
Yeah.
to recruit the Israeli ninjas from the Israeli army when they get out.
And because it's easier. No, but again, the whole context of usage of a platform like ours, an automation platform, is mostly to leverage the abilities of managing the whole like supply chain. And usually the supply chain for even the smallest company can be global. From development shops in different countries to, you know, like other services that you're using that have servers in multiple locations in the world, even if it's globally distributed only to be a CDN provide you the service, but their servers are located globally. So with that context, you need a lot of automation through that to try to understand the landscape of your third parties. I hope it makes sense.
Yeah. So what do we see here is a timeline of notable supply chain attacks, like a few name dropping of various attacks that were published on the wild. So we're not going to delve and cover each one of them. I'm going only to mention a few of them, but there are tons of information on the web that you can drill down later, and we might be doing another webinar later, but we'll zoom to others that we have not mentioned here. So usually these attacks are categorized to various numerous categories, as you can see here. So they are sorted and associated, for example, for API or a typo squad, for example, the hack task or source code repositories and fake to chain. So, for example, the most repetitive one is the publishing infrastructure. So there's so many like peer breach or Operation Red or CC Cleaner and Linux Mint and others. So it's a lot.
It's amazing that all of the security tools and other things that might protect you have embedded malware.
Yeah.
All of the toolbars and all sorts of things, you would never know.
But I think that this separation into categories is not that important. It's important, but it's not the right view or the right take here. I think that my personal opinion is that what it matters is it does not matter if a specific attack uses typo squatting as a vector or other vector. It's more important to know or to understand what is the relationship or with the suppliers that you use. So the relationship matters in this case. I'm referring to the relationship between companies and their suppliers or any those that are part of their supply chain, okay? So few examples. What do I mean when I'm referring to relationships? So let's try and be more specific when talking about relationships. So do the suppliers have a web access to organization, or do you visit or have access to their website? So, for example, a Azure website, a portal where you check the status of your candidates. Do you transfer files between the companies? Is it one way or both ways? Is there an interface that persists and is continual? Or is it for only short period of time? What data do they hold or have access to? For example, do they hold credentials?
And not only that, what amount of data that they hold also matters, like the volume of the data, because if they're holding 5 records of whatever, it might be nothing, but what happens if it's 5 million, okay? Then it actually matters. So you also need to classify the volume, I think.
Agree. So do you give them like email account? For example, they're not part of a company, but sometimes I see companies that open a formal email account with the company domain to a consultant or companies that they work with. So are they officially part of your organization? So is it a cloud-based service provider? Or is it SaaS-based? Is it on-prem? Is it a AWS packet that can be exposed to the wild? So there are many questions. For example, do they give you a mobile application to use or both? For example, right now we are using Zoom, but Zoom can be used within the browser. Zoom can be installed on the laptop, and you can also use the application on a mobile phone. So Zoom can be like your third-party vendor in various places. What kind of supplier is it? Is it a managed service, or is it your partner? Is it an integrator? Is it a company that gives you coding services or API? So they might need to be more SDLC in place, or the developers need to have like secure coding abilities or awareness for security, for secure coding. Is that the company that you already acquired or consider to acquire? For example, do these companies in the middle of a M&A process or evaluation process that you want to evaluate them? So also, are you subject to regulations and privacy issues? For example, where are the digital assets of this company located? For example, do they located in Europe, or do they located in countries that US government are not allowing you to do business with? So it matters from regulation perspective. Okay, so there are tons of questions. So another question that you might want to be aware of is how far you get to mandate the policy and governance. Can you tell your suppliers that is not you're not allowing him, or you shouldn't use a specific piece of code or software? Do you assess their vendors, for example, the fourth-party vendors? So how far can you go? Okay, so we also need to keep in mind that size matters. So this cute kid is from the Gods Must Be Crazy movie. I don't know if you remember that scene, but in that scene, he took a wood and placed it on his head because there's an animal that threatened him, and he remembered that if he will be tall enough or big enough, that animal will be scared and leave him alone. So also size matters when it comes to suppliers. So big companies have more power compared to small ones. Let's say you are a company of 5 people, let's say accounting firm, and I'm not sure if you send Amazon or other huge company a request to understand their inner security policies or how they do things, if you get enough cooperation or you get enough materials or info. But if Amazon, for example, in this specific case, will participate in a tender for US government, but for supplying infrastructure for, let's say, around $10 billion, well, I have a feeling that you might be able to get more cooperation, and they will answer tons of questions and will be able to share with you everything that works in the background from a secure perspective, and also perform a penetration test if required.
Yeah.
So it's like in the fish tank wonder, like big fishes eat smaller ones. And also a question that jumps into my mind. Do we need to care about huge companies? Demi, what do you think? For example,
I will answer the annoying answer of it depends, but usually no.
why?
Because think of it that probably because they're bigger companies, they invest a lot of resources and effort, specifically doing security things, security controls putting in place. And once they have that, the chances of somebody going at them are much lower. Again, it might happen. Okay, large companies got breached. It happens. Shit happens. But eventually, usually it's easier to go to the smaller companies with lower security standards and to get the initial like touch point to your data and maybe like hopping through them to the larger enterprise than actually hacking, I don't know, like checkpoints, firewall or whatever.
So if a huge company such as Microsoft got breached, then it might be not just only your problem, it might be the problem for everyone in the world. So everyone is using them. So the small vendors are the ones that you should really be worried about.
It seems like the easiest way for the most part is just social engineering, being able to find your way around inside of the building. I mean that.
I agree, but most of the times, even if you do social engineering, you get inside. But if you have internally segregation of networks or maybe like even other types of internal security controls, you might avoid a lot of things. Like for example, least privilege access. Even if you get inside the building and nothing is laying out there, like confidential information, it will be much harder to actually get that. But, or like even somebody asking you, what are you doing here? Like the most stupid things might actually avoid a lot of the things. I agree that social engineering is probably the easiest one. But eventually when you get in, what happens then? What's next? Like, what are you trying to exfiltrate maybe also? These are the things that matter.
Oh yeah, no, I know. I was just, I guess that's the area of least resistance for the most part.
I agree. I told you in advance, we're the stupid factor, okay? Not infrastructure.
Yeah, from
attacks in layer 8. We can schedule a meet in a social engineering village.
Yes, indeed.
So if you join the conversation right now, so what we see now is not a pandemic infection related. Like the status of, I would like now to talk about the rise of regulations. So it is taking effect and we can see more and more regulations that are related to data privacy. And this website, in this case, DLA Piper, gives an overview on the status of relevant regulation around the world. So there are two more well-known regulations, such as the GDPR, like General Data Protection Regulation, and the CCPA, California Consumer Privacy Act. But we started to see more and more local laws and regulations taking effect on other countries as well. So I can mention also the DBP, Indian Personal Data Protection Bill, and LGPD, which is the Brazilian General Data Protection Law. So also regarding the numbers that you see on the left, I think that the numbers are much higher now since I took that print screen. Okay, what is the relation?
By the way, Elad,
yeah.
I must ask, like data regulation and all of the things that you're speaking about right now, okay? Everybody will try to reinvent the wheel and basically adjust that according. You have even like the NY Shield Act that they took in New York. Every state in the US probably does something in this context. Again, because they understand that right now, your perimeter had expanded long time ago out of your data center. And because you need to keep track of your data, they're being so sensitive. First of all, what type of data you're passing to your like entities that you're working with. You have, for example, in the GDPR, you have the DPA, the Data Processing Amendment Agreement, whatever like they want to like call that, because you're trying to classify the amount of information and the type of information that you're passing and minify that to as least as possible. Again, because you know that a breach will occur, okay? And eventually you need to minimize the risk with the least amount of exposure to your own company. And even it has like the talk around like data retention. how long you're holding the data after the agreement itself, etc. And because people are being more sensitive to this like whole field, there is like a really large awareness. So because of that, you need to like do the classification process, risk management, and risk management means not what type of ports I'm opening and maybe I need to close them and close security gaps. It's literally understanding the data flow in your organization, how it goes, and try to mitigate that accordingly, who to plug and play and integrate with your own infrastructure and who to not. So again, this is a really, it's a thing, okay? It's a thing today.
Again, I fully agree. So I mentioned that relationship matters. So what is the relationship between merit and starboard? Can someone tell? Do you know what is the relationship between merit and starboard?
I think they acquired them, right?
Yeah. So merit acquired the starboard. So they're like one of the famous or largest hotel chain. And what happened is that I'm not talking about two cases of M&A, but I would like to highlight. So Marriott is one of them. So Marriott acquired a hotel chain named Starwood, and Starwood were breached. And Marriott got a fine for being responsible, as in GDPR, you are responsible even if others did not protected well the data. So Marriott had to pay after the acquisition due to that regulation. And if we take another example, a different one, like another take, what is the relationship between Yahoo and Verizon? It's a different case now.
Mm-hmm.
It's another M&A story. So Verizon acquired Yahoo a few years ago. And Yahoo were involved with a security incident, but in this case, Yahoo had to take the cost of the breach after the M&A deal. So we have two kinds of M&A stories and two different takes, and depends what it was the relationship.
And also like legal wise, what are they doing? Yeah, makes
also
sense.
Depends if someone has a better lawyer. So, Demi, you might want to share info about it because I know you dealt a lot of law recently. A lot of
Trust me, I don't.
You can
Okay.
pass the exam right now. So Demi is going over a lot of documentation and.
I've read more legal documents than code in the past year. That's sad.
So let's delve into a few categories and few cases. So the first one is a type spotting. So what is a regular type spotting? Regular type spotting is like a form of cyber squatting where someone sits on a similar domain names, and to those that are owned by the brand or the copyright, and that attacker targets that domains, hoping that people will incorrectly log into these websites or encounter this website and get pwned. Okay, so it's like the same thing, but a different story or different take. So well, I'm talking about right now of a story of what happened in NPM. Demi, can you share what is the NPM?
A node package manager. It's basically a source code in general and executables that you might want to incorporate in your application, and you just include things like Python's, let's say, pip repositories that you might want to include. Java has its own Maven repository that has lots of like external packages. It can be open source, it can be something proprietary, and basically you can create even your own NPM like package manager specifically on-prem.
So it's like the world's largest software registry. So the open source developers use the NPM to share and borrow packages. And many organizations also use NPM to manage private development as well.
You can host that locally, locally host that.
So the attack was executed by NPM user named Hextask, and that user authored 40 packages with names similar to common packages. So here we can see the initial thread on Twitter that telling people about what happened. So the NPM package cross-env was found to contain malicious code that exfiltrated the environment variables upon installation. And on the left, you can see like the similar package names that that user created. So the attacker tried to use human error and common NPM naming conventions to trick users into installing the malicious packages. Okay, here's some few examples. Here's another example. This is like what crowdsourcing can help us to mitigate. So in that case, someone in the same thread suggested how to solve that problem, and a little bit later ahead, the NPM released like a mitigation solution that will prevent typo squatting when it comes to packet names. So always good to monitor the suggestions on the threads on the web. Another category is publishing infrastructure. So one case that can be associated with this category is the peer breach. So what is a peer? Peer is like a PHP extension and application repository. So what do we see here on the slide? So what we see here is a post from the peer team on their Twitter account regarding the breach. So what happened? The server distribution system for the PHP libraries was hacked, and the original PHP peer package manager was replaced with a modified version. So you can figure out what happened next. A user that will install peer installation files from the peer PHP net in a window of 6 months could have been infected. So since many web hosting services allow their users to install and run peer, this attack might also have impacted a large number of websites and also their visitors. It appears that the attackers compromised the publishing infrastructure in this case, because since no coding signing was involved, and the attackers didn't require the compromise any key, but rather just the infrastructure. So you can see also on the bottom, like people are blocked because there's no support to that period of time. So we also need to think not just security, but what happens if something broke, and we'll see a few examples shortly. So here's the malicious code. You can see here that it's like there is a shell open and connect to that IP address, the malicious IP address. But the chances are high that that IP address might be another compromised host and not belongs to the attacker. But can you tell what's so interesting about this specific code snip? In which language it was written?
PHP, I think.
So this snippet was written in Perl, and it's like a
Perl?
PHP related, so it's weird a little bit, at least for me. Backdooring SDKs. So what happened in expensive well case? In this case, a malware injected to a free Android app. In this case, a wallpaper app that was secretly register vixen to paid services. So this is one of the ways for attackers to monetize within mobile to send like SMS to premium services, for example, horoscope or hotline. And they say, for example, that SMS costs you like $10, and later you need to fight with your carrier and tell them, hey, I did not send that SMS to that premium numbers. So it's like a lost battle afterwards. So the malicious code in the app came from a compromised software development kit, SDK, that Android developer used. So it also uses obfuscation to hide the malicious activity, and also to bypass antivirus solutions. So at least 6 million devices were infected, and it's up to 21 million devices. So in this case, attackers were able to compromise the toolchain of the developer machines and introduce a backdoor in the resulting apps. As such, the developer keys can be assumed to be compromised. API security is also a hot topic today. I can mention here the Facebook case, but it happens a lot, and we see a lot of example. I really like the tweet what you can see on the slide, where someone here says that, I know, lock the front door, but leave the back door open. I tell him it's like having two-factor authentication, but not controlling API access. So it shows like how important keeping API secure. It's also your APIs if you're offering such as a company, and also APIs that are used by you as a company. So there are tons of examples found and mentioned recently regarding API security. And we can see and notice it's so important because OWASP released a dedicated top 10 API security list that you can use and educate your developers. So what happened in the Facebook API case, that attackers exploited vulnerability in the Facebook code that impacted viewers. So can you tell what is the viewers feature? Someone knows? I'm not a user of
You're seeing the privacy settings specifically as somebody else. Like for example, if I'm Demi, I can view it as somebody that might not be connected to the entity or something like that, or maybe as a page or whatever. I'm taking the identity of somebody else.
Exactly. So viewers is a feature that lets people to see what their own profile looks like to another Facebook user. So unfortunately, vulnerability resulted in the generation of an access token that had the permission of the Facebook mobile app. So not for the viewer, but for the other Facebook users. So that allowed an attacker to steal the other user's Facebook access token, which could then be used to take over the accounts. And there are also great in many websites that monitor and map APIs, so we can also use them, for example, any API or others, if you're a developer and would like to use an API, and also to see if a company that you're working with is also suggesting an API. So also you need to include, if you are doing a penetration test, also to include
the scope
of protecting the API, and also to keep that in mind.
But I must say, specifically hacking around APIs doesn't mean that you need to do something super sophisticated. Even with tampering with links, okay, like regular REST API links, can be something that exposes data. For example, like link enumeration. Okay, if you've gotten a link from a company, I literally got that 2 days ago. Okay, somebody that asked me, Demi, I know that you're doing third-party security. I had a delivery message that I got from a delivery company. I got the URL. It wasn't authenticated. It looked kind of fishy. Can you check that out? And I'm like seeing like basically if you go and like enumerate a number, I'm not even saying a hash, a number, and trying to get that, you get the details of another another customer. And I didn't hack anything. Okay, literally I didn't do anything. And it doesn't take somebody with like really high-end skills of hacking, cracking, or like knowing even programming languages. It's literally like tampering with the URL, and it's something that you need to take in advance, even without like super sophisticated API security tools. It's like literally designing your product according to some kind of standard to try to understand that you're not exposing data, and it's an API.
So we're moving to another category, which is source code compromise. We mentioned here the Electron Native Notify from 2019. So we have the Commodore wallet, Agama wallet. So what happened in this case? It was a security vulnerability in an external module that the code base of Agama wallet depended upon. So Commodore's version of Agama wallet was using Node.js module that contained a malicious code. The infected model was collecting user seed passphrases and storing them like on a public accessible server. So this attack focused on getting the malicious packages into the build chain of Agama and stealing the wallet seeds and other login passphrases used within the application. So how Commodore knew about the vulnerability or about the problem. So if you remember the NPM that I mentioned earlier, so the NPM team reached out to Commodore and told them that they found a security weakness that they detected through a source code analysis system. So here's how it looks in the when you like posting
the network
code. You can see the changes. So somebody add the electronative notify, and later in a higher version, it was like added as part of the repository. So the cool thing about here, so after they were aware of the security problem, they were able to get back some of the money because they used the same vulnerability. So they went like to the IP addresses or the places of the wallets where the compromise has been, and took away the money from those wallets to a secure location before the attackers were able to use them. So it's a nice story from that perspective. Here is the code snippet. As you can see here, the Electron native notify with the malicious source code, and you can see like in the middle the address like HTTPS update check herokuapp.com, for example. This is how the malicious code were able to get the sensitive info to the public servers. And right now we can see a demo, show demo of what happened. For example, during the stack, we can see here the Adama wallet sending the wallet seed to the remote server. So after launching the wallet application on the left, you can see a request to update check herokuapp.com on the right, which downloads the second stage of payload. So once we are enter in a wallet seed, you can see another request to that server successfully stealing our wallet seed. So that's really, really cool what you see here, because here's some guy that he mentioned the breach that I just mentioned. And he says, okay, it will happen a lot of times, and this is not the first time it happens. So I went, okay, if he mentioned this is not first time, what was the first time? What other case is he talking about? And as you can see, there was another security problem that involved in the repository. And you can see that they are talking about it, and they say, but no one knows what is the malicious code does yet. And you can see they're communicating with the developer. So the developer that did the post or the change in the code was named Right Control. And they are asking also him why he did the changes, and also asking a user named Domain Cutter, something like that, why you give access to that user to control the repository. So there's a new debate going on that, and it's very fun because the developer said to him, hey, that guy emailed me and he wanted to maintain that model, so I gave it to him. I don't get anything from maintaining this model, and I don't even use it anymore, and haven't used it for years. So the attacker contacted the developer, asked him, hey, I'm a nice guy, would like to maintain the repository. So,
that's digital social engineering.
yeah, so the original developer let him to maintain. So later on, the attacker update the code, and then everybody update the repositories with the malicious code. So you can see what they wrote to the developer later on about what happened. I don't think we were satisfied with what happened, but. And here is another case. So what developers, what a lot of code repos owners were depending on, decided to quit the repository because he had the legal problems, because the developer had a was there, and he has like 250 models on NPM, and also a popular package manager used by JavaScript project to install dependencies. And he has a Kik, a project named Kik, and there's a key company, and that key company went to the NPM admins, claiming brand problems using that name. So NPM stopped this developer, and he got mad, and he released all the code repositories that he maintained for the years. So we can see that he broke like almost the entire internet.
I remember, yeah, because of a stupid snippet. It was like, I know, I remember that one.
So there's also another security concern because these domains are now, or these NPM names are now free. So as an attacker, I can now register new ones, the malicious ones, instead those that were released by the original developer, but is not currently maintaining them. So who is the owner of the process? Who is the owner of the security of his vendors? So right now there's no standard, and we saw various examples to that. So one can mention the CISO, which is supposed to be responsible, but other companies that we saw, sometimes we saw the legal department is responsible for maintaining the security of the third-party vendors. And we saw other examples that procurement were responsible for that handling for the third parties. And we see more and more examples, and we see a peak and increase. There is a dedicated security teams within the organization that are now responsible to maintain and the security of the third parties of the organization. So it's
Elad, I missed this show.
We see a mix of things all around. Sometimes we see procurement, sometimes legal, sometimes the CISO, sometimes the dedicated security team, and it's like being improvised all the way. So where do we start? We need to build a process, and we need to define all the stakeholders. So let's say we defined who are the stakeholders, who is responsible for the process, but then we need to begin somewhere. So first you need to have an updated mapping of your supply chain and vendors. And it's not an easy task. I've seen
Elad, do you remember how fun was that?
Yeah.
Doing that internally?
Yeah, internally. So we have a hint for if someone would like to kickstart the process, but we've seen organizations that wanted to initiate the program and were not able to point out what is the updated mapping of their vendors. Sometimes they found out that the supplier was breached only because the developer got an email from the vendor telling him, hey, dear developer, we got breached. Here's a notification for the email, and that developer goes to the security and tells, hey, I got a notification from the development company that I use when they have breach and we have some kind of trouble. And the security team was not aware that that developer or development team uses that solution in place. So follow the money. If you have problems, you should go to you can also go for ERP solution and take out all the records and or similar systems and understand what are your vendors that you're being used, but you can also follow the money. You can go to accounting and tell them, hey, what vendors are we spending money on? Please give me a list. And so that is helpful to monitor at least the first vendors list that you can come with, because you can map what vendors are being paid. Also, after we finish the map, we need to decide what vendors are critical. So we cannot tell, hey, all the vendors of the organization, all the third-party suppliers are critical. It does not scale and does not work. So if, let's say, if a vendor brings Pepe to the office, is it your critical supplier or not? Let's say if you got hit by ransomware, or in these days, the third-party vendors have a denial service because due to COVID-19 problem. He cannot work, he cannot go to his offices, and he stopped responding. So if you rely on these services and products, you need to decide what are your critical vendors. So how many critical vendors do you have? Okay. why do you consider them as critical?
It's critical, yeah. Mhm.
Can you tell what is the impact if to that supplier on your side? How fast can you tell if you're dependent on it? How much do you depend on it? What happens if it goes down, or what happens if it got breached? And it's also important to remember and keep in mind, not all vendors are critical. So
Not
it's
all
not
vendors are
a
equal.
one-time solution. It's not one-time effort. It's like ongoing. It's not a snapshot. We need to constantly monitor our suppliers. Companies always change. For example, company implement and adopt new technologies. The size of an organization change. For example, they recruit more people. And now they need to have like a bigger or more comprehensive security plan to support that increase of the company. That vendor might be in a financial problem or get breached. So you need to monitor constantly what's going on. So I can share with you, for example, we had examples of customers that they replaced at least 5 CISOs in like 3 years. So there's this reshuffle going on between CISOs all the time because there are not much CISOs around or people that are responsible for security. So they do a position for like 1 year and then move to a better position because they can get a better paid, and now, or maybe they don't want to be responsible if a company was breached and would like to move to the next one and lower the risk of being compromised. So
Fun facts.
you also, so you need to retest and evaluate your policies all the time. And you need to evaluate software, so it's not a one-time. Software have vulnerabilities and updates. So are you paying attention to what direct access or suppliers are you up to? Do you listen to across your extended ecosystem for what's going on? So this is another important thing to note. You need to always work.
Elad, we have 7 more minutes. Point.
So the human factor is important. People are part of organization. You need to look at them like digital assets, and they need to pay attention if those vendors have a awareness program or have a education program. And you probably know the person on the left, it's Edward Snowden. He leaked sensitive info from a government because he used to work for Booz and Hamilton, which is a supplier of government. But can you spot the woman on the right? So that woman on the right is a different case. It's related to the Capital One. So it's a Paige Thompson that was a suspicion in downloading nearly 30 gigabytes of Capital One credit application data from a rented cloud data server. So that case infected approximately 100 million people in the United States and at least 60 million people in Canada. So we also need to pay attention to the human factor. Sometimes we cannot solve or handle problems at the supplier side. Let's say the suppliers have our suppliers of we're a small accounting firm, and there's a component in the PC chip and the firmware that has a security vulnerabilities. Do we now need to take care of it compared to other gaps we have in the organization? Do we not need to replace the laptops that you use? It's maybe not. So some battles might be lost before. Some few have resources, Mitra attack. It's an amazing website you can find there. A lot of info. We started to see it becoming more common in the terminology. There are like government guidance and resources, for example, by NIST or CISA. You can also check our website. There's tons of helpful resources on the website that can later use in use cases.
I must say about these kind of things, frameworks, all are good. You need to purify out of that whatever fits you. Okay, because it's super comprehensive. You can go and actually spend years of implementing different kinds of processes. The most important part, and Elad mentioned that, I think elaborately, the relationship, the context. Context is really important. And once you understand what type of method you need to put in place, then go and choose a framework and take maybe even a subset out of it to have some kind of process in place.
So there are free tools that you can use to audit your repositories or code repositories. I can mention NPM audit or companies that offer free services or solutions like SonarCube and Sneak, which is an amazing company that you can use their solution. And we need to keep in mind that supply chain security is not a solo effort. We are part of ecosystems and we all depend on each other. So this is like a teamwork of the industry. We all depend on each other and also all network throughout to each other. And something that might affect the vendors can also affect on us. So we need to work, we need to partner, we need not to be like a hustle if a vendor was breached, and we need to work with him in purpose for it to improve because it can happen to everybody. So if we treat companies the right way, then every company in the ecosystem will be more secure and we all will benefit from that. Here's a recap of what I mentioned in the few slides. So the third-party suppliers are part of the perimeters. We need to keep that in mind. It's not just they're floating around outside the perimeters. If something of that happens there, it can affect us. We can be an evaluator or supplier of both. It depends where do we stand. There is a rise of regulations, for example, GDPR and others. We see it more and more. We need to worry about small vendors, that these vendors put us in risks. The relationship matters. It's all about the relationship. I gave a lot of examples. You can watch later the video, get a few ideas. Size also plays a part, and some battles are lost. We need to pay attention to the human factor. I talk a little bit about it. I could probably talk a little bit more about that. And you need to put emphasis of the people as part of the vendors that you're working with. And it's an ongoing effort. We need to always to monitor and in an automatic way or scalable way, how do these third parties status are? What is the level of security posture of third parties? And if you want to be like more practical, we need to decide who's the owner. I mentioned a lot of cases where it's varied from organization to organization, and we need to have an updated mapping for the money and understand which are the criticals or which are the vendors that impact the most. And of course, we need to put in mind automation and scale. And you also need to include requirements, security requirements. You need to include it in every RFP and contract, and that you request when you're dealing with vendors. So we need to tell them, this is the level of security that I would like you to be, and let's partner and let's communicate and let's see how to get that level. So we need to formalize it so they know what is the expectations of you from their side when it comes to security.
Yeah, usually it's a common denominator according to all of the relationships that I have, because it will be a derivative out of my own security posture and how am I handling our security posture. Because once I have that, it's kind of transitive. So it goes to all of the supply chain. And basically by creating some kind of mechanism like that, it makes sense that we will improve the security of all of the entities that are communicating. Again, I know it's like a really pink future, but eventually if we don't aim to that, we won't get to that ever.
So that should be standard, including a security section in every contract RFP.
There is one, like there is one about data privacy today. Cool. I know that we spoke like really fast about tons of subjects, but are there any questions that you haven't asked during the session? Because probably your faces are like this.
We can also ask later. Like.
It was perfect.
Cool.
There's so many things that you didn't mention, like it's
so
tons of examples.
I think you can click on the next slide, Elad.
Yeah.
So eventually, even like we're out there, okay? Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, whatever. Like if you have any other questions that we can like contribute from our experience, awesome. You can send us emails, Demi at Ben-Ari, Elad at Ben-Ari, but we're probably available on any communication manner. If you'd like to send mail pigeons, we accept them. And I really hope that was a bit educational at least, and it showed you some of the practices and some of the risks that are kind of compromised out of your whole supply chain. That's it. Thank you very much for attending. Like 2 hours listening to us, it's not easy, I know.
I can share that it was the first time that I'm doing a webinar, and it's very weird.
Yes, thank you so much. That was a
Thank
great
you.
session.
My talks are very live, and I based on communication with participants, but so
Yeah.
Yes, and
We,
Alona,
even
thank
though
you.
they didn't participate, but for sure we've learned a lot from this. And
Thank
so,
you.
everybody, if you have any questions, if you have, okay, all right. So,
Awesome.
Wallaby is a question.
Mhm.
Right, but then let me end this. Guys, if you have any questions, you can also reach out to our Slack channel. I've sent you the invite if you're not
Sure.
invited yet to that, so you can see on the chat. That's the first message that I've sent a while ago. And so thank you for this session. It was
Yes,
really a great
thank
one,
you.
Demi.
And
And
Wallaby will ask
yeah,
after the recording
stay
ends.
safe. And
yeah,
keep it
and
easy.
Ella, yeah. All right, so I'm gonna stop this recording.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank
Wallaby
you.
will have a question later.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you. Keep